Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap, your nightly news podcast on all the news that I come across throughout the day, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician in the near future. Hopefully, all you guys are doing wonderful. Hopefully, all you guys are well. Today is December 27th, and it is Saturday. Hopefully, all you guys are having a wonderful weekend so far, getting all the rest and relaxation that you need to get. Of course, New Year's is coming up as well, and I just want to remind you all that there will not be an episode on the 30th. Outside of that, hopefully all you guys are doing well. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. All the support would be great as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by this summer. And if you're on Substack, please also consider subscribing. All support goes to me. It's $8 a month. This is a viewer-supported show, so all the support is truly greatly appreciated. Trying out a new webcam here, so let me know if this one works a lot better. I'm sure it is. I know the laptop one is really fuzzy, and by the looks of it, this one looks a lot better. So we'll see how this one goes. But with that being said, let's get into the news. Moving on into the ICE segments, it's the weekend, so not a lot's going on. That's kind of how weekends tend to go, and these videos are a little shorter, but that's how it goes. Moving on into our ICE segment, the first topic we have today is ICE is preparing to essentially double their holding capacity as they want to hold 80,000 more immigrants in warehouses across the country. The Trump administration is preparing warehouses to hold 80,000 immigrants detained by ICE, according to a new report by the Washington Post. ICE is seeking contractors to renovate 22 brand new locations. The facilities are essentially reminiscent of Amazon warehouses. We talked about the purchasing of these facilities, I believe, about a month or so ago. I couldn't quite remember when that happened. But this would essentially double ICE's holding capabilities to detain people as the Trump administration seeks to expand deportations in 2026. Locations for these such sites will include 7 large-scale locations for these sites include Stanford, Virginia, Hutchins, Texas, Hammond, Louisiana, Baytown, Texas, Glendale, Arizona, Social Circle, Georgia, Kansas City, Missouri, and there will also be 15 new processing sites located throughout the country. Why do we need to expand holding capacity for an agency that's supposed to be focused on deporting people? Now, I don't support deporting people in the slightest. I am very against deporting people. I mean, we all know this. But I would rather people be deported than held in a holding cell for months on end with no sight on when they're going to be released. And that's kind of seems what ICE is doing here. For an agency that's supposed to be deporting people, it seems to be also, holding a lot of people, which is kind of odd. We already know they're not getting due process. So what's the point? Why are we holding all those individuals? That kind of seems really suspicious. And the only reason you're holding a lot of people here in these locations, forced labor. That's one of the main reasons they have camps like this. A lot of prisons have forced labor as well. And if that's the case in these ICE facilities and we don't know that just yet, something's got to happen with that. Of course, we don't know that, but there's got to be a reason you're holding 80,000 people and not deporting them when what supposedly is the main focus of the agency is to deport people and remove them from the country. I mean, that just seems like a no-brainer. Again, in my mind, everyone should be able to live in this country freely. We're a country based and built off of immigrants. Unfortunately, we just have an immigration system that prioritizes white people. And that's just how it goes. I mean, if you boil it down, everything in this country ends up happening because of racism. And it's a problem. It really is. A lot of these people have been detained and been detained at court hearings or proceedings to get their citizenship or to get their green card or to start that process. And that's absolutely disgusting. Even the people who try to come here legally are still being detained. And, for some reason, a lot of these people aren't being deported. And again, I am not supportive of deportations in the slightest. I think it's absolutely horrific. But why are we holding all these people if the main focus of ICE is to deport people? You'd think that you would be deporting people instead of holding them in these facilities. It makes no sense to expand and essentially double these ICE facilities. Anyways, moving on into our other news segment for today with the rest of the news that we have today. We have a handful of topics here today. Um, Thailand and Cambodia have officially signed a brand new ceasefire, of course, about a week ago. About a week ago. Um, about a week ago, or maybe a little bit longer, fighting started breaking out on the borders again due to border issues. I'm blanking on the term for that right now. But essentially, Thailand and Cambodia, according to NPR, have both agreed to another ceasefire following the strikes that started again earlier this December of this year. Outside of an end to the fighting, the ceasefire also calls to stop all further military movements and violations of airspace by either countries. The deal also calls for Thailand to release 18 soldiers that have been held since the fighting started in July. Um, since December 7th, Thailand has lost around 26 soldiers and one civilian due to direct results of fighting, but they've also reported 44 civilian casualties total. Cambodia is yet to release official numbers, but claims that 30 total have been killed and 90 total have been injured. Of course, hundreds of thousands of people have had to be evacuated from borders of both of the countries due to the strikes happening alongside of the border. But, this is great news for both of these countries, and hopefully it remains in place. Of course, the one mediated by the Trump administration and essentially forced by the Trump administration when they forced to sanction both of these countries if they didn't get a peace deal done, because that's what Trump does for these things. Didn't work out. Unsurprisingly, I mean, he forced it to happen, or else both of the countries would have sanctions against them. Of course, that's not going to work out. You can't just force countries to come to a peace deal. They have to work it out on their own and figure out what works for both of the parties. But hopefully this one will be successful. And good luck to everyone in these countries, especially the people on the borders. Having to evacuate from an active war zone is nothing anyone ever wants to do, and nothing anyone should ever have to experience. The United States is very lucky to be in the strategic position it is, where it will very likely not have to experience a actual combat scenario on its borders for a very long time, unless it starts the conflict by itself. And I, as an American, am very lucky to experience that, and that's something I'm not going to take for granted. There are a lot of other countries around the world that do have to, unfortunately, experience that, and it's very unfortunate that that has to be the case. And I really do hope one day we can get to a world that that doesn't have to happen. When I was very young, I was told that there was going to be world peace in this world. That's something I grew up in the United States school system hoping for and learning about. And although that's not the case, it's something that I believe humanity and the rest of the world can strive to accomplish. And I think that's something we definitely can accomplish in my lifetime. In other news, Jimmy Kimmel released the alternative Christmas message this year for the UK. There is an annual Christmas. I learned this today, by the way. This is something we learned on stream. I stream on TikTok. You should go check that out if you haven't already. But we learned today on stream that the UK does an annual Christmas message. They pick, I believe, an American, news personality, and that person, makes a statement for everyone in the rest of the world. And this has been a decades-old tradition. And they talk about what's going on in the United States without any essentially censorship by United States standards. So it's very interesting. And this is what Jimmy Kimmel had to say this year. Jimmy Kimmel released the annual alternative broadcast for UK audiences, calling out the Trump administration for fascism and tyranny. Jimmy Kimmel said in his opening remarks that tyranny is booming in the United States due to Trump. The message aired on the Channel 4 UK, or in the UK, as a tradition dating back to 1993. Kimmel said in his opening remarks, "I don't know what's been going on over here, but I can tell you that from a fascism perspective, this has been a great year. Tyranny is booming over here." This comes after Kimmel was, of course, abruptly taken off air this year due to comments he made over the Charlie Kirk assassination and calls from the Trump administration for him to be essentially deplatformed. But thankfully, Jimmy Kimmel is staying around. He beat Trump in that one. This was a great watch, and it's around 2 or 3 minutes. So if you're interested in going to see what Jimmy Kimmel had to say, I truly do recommend it. It didn't take me much time. Unfortunately, TikTok doesn't like when you watch reaction stuff on stream. Learned that one today. So that was a poor choice on my part, but we did watch most of it on stream, and it was a great watch. This administration is a problem, and tyranny is for sure booming within this country. Trump is a fascist. And to all the MAGA people who are going to say that I don't know what a fascist is and that I need to read a history book, clearly it's you who needs to read a history book. If you're still a Trump supporter and you still lack basic empathy as a human being. Antifa literally stands for anti-fascist, and your president is calling out Antifa like it's some terrorist organization, yet you still say I'm wrong. I'll see you in 10 years when you say that you never supported this in the first place. I mean, it's bound to happen eventually. It happens every single time. If you read a history book, you would know that. Boom. Mind-blowing. I know, right? Isn't that crazy? Anyways, the Kennedy Center is demanding $1 million in damages from a musician who canceled their performance at the center. The Kennedy Center is now demanding $1 million in damages from artist Chuck Reed after he refused to perform at the Kennedy Center on Christmas Eve due to the name change of the facility to the Trump Kennedy Center. Spokesperson Roma Davi said that this was a disservice to the center, saying, "Any artist canceling their show at the Trump Kennedy Center over political differences isn't courageous or principled. They are selfish, intolerant, and have failed to meet basic duty of a public artist to perform for all people." Artists don't have a public duty to perform for all people. An artist has the free will to do as they wish with their art, not to mention their own image as an individual. Trump plastered his name all over a building, which was a memorial to one of the greatest presidents of all time. Not to mention, he put his name in front of that president. When you look at it statistically, Trump loves to say, if you look at the numbers, he loves to say that. And if you look at the numbers, Trump is the worst president of all time. JFK, you could consider as one of the greatest presidents of all time, and to plaster his name in front of JFK on JFK's own memorial is insane. I don't care if you're MAGA. I don't care what side you're on. You should be able to admit that, hey, that is a little crazy, to put that on another president's memorial. You really could compare that to, putting a statue, if he put a statue of himself next to or on top of the Lincoln Memorial or, next to the Washington Memorial. I myself would put JFK on a level of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, and I'm sure many other within this country will. I don't think that's a hot take to say at all. And him doing this is essentially on the same level, in my opinion. And to tarnish another legacy like that is absolutely shameful. And the fact that Trump is willing to do this is wild. Let's not forget that this was voted on by people that he put onto this council. Trump put every single person on the council for that building. They for sure knew that this was going to happen. I mean, that his name was literally on the building the day after. In a normal procedure, that would take months to accomplish. No, his name was on there the day after. There is no way anyone is going to be able to tell me that they didn't know that this was going to happen. They knew, for sure, 100%. Anyways, this is a really interesting one, as locals in Nigeria said that there was no ISIS presence where the U.S. carried out strikes. According to a new report by CNN, the locals who were impacted by U.S. strikes in Nigeria are confused because ISIS never had a presence there in the first place. Trump claims that it was done because they were targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. But according to local Suleiman Kagara, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, I'm probably not, and I truly apologize for that, it's a peaceful community and has no history of any ISIS presidents, nor La Kurba or any other terrorist groups that operate in the area. Kagara said, "In Java, we see Christians as our brothers. We don't have religious conflicts, so we weren't expecting this." This does not shock me in the slightest. But again, why are we carrying out these strikes in the first place? Nigeria is a Commonwealth nation. They have direct relations to the United Kingdom, which is a top 10 power at the very least. I believe I checked power rankings and they were considered like 6th or 7th. Not making a joke there, but why isn't the United Kingdom, dealing with ISIS in these regions if it's a Commonwealth country? No offense to the UK or any UK viewers. I know you probably don't want to deal with this conflict either, but you guys have more relations to to Nigeria than the United States does in the first place. You guys are in the same Commonwealth together, why isn't the UK dealing with their own partner? If Trump's so America first, especially, Trump likes to say that he's so America first. Why are we dealing with this then? This other country, the United Kingdom, is a very well and very powerful country. They are very well off. They can fend for themselves and the allies that they have. They can deal with that. Why is the United States dealing with that if we're so America first? We shouldn't be striking other countries in the first place when Americans are, living paycheck to paycheck. We have bigger things to deal with in this country than terrorists in another country that is well associated with a very powerful country already. There is no reason for us to be doing that. It is a waste of our time. It is a waste of our resources, and it is a waste of our taxpayer dollars. There's no reason for it, especially on Christmas. Like, come on, guys, what are we doing? Anyways, moving on into our final topic for tonight, a billboard campaign has appeared near military bases, telling troops to disobey illegal orders from the Trump administration. A billboard campaign has started in Florida near a military base to tell troops to disobey any illegal orders from Trump. Launched by defiance.org and whistleblower.aid.org, the campaign urges troops to obey only lawful orders following strikes in the Caribbean that have killed more than 100 individuals so far. Mike Taylor, a former Department of Homeland Security official from the first Trump administration, said in a statement, "We're making sure troops know their rights and that they're not alone if they are told to cross the line. The president may be the commander-in-chief, but even he is bound by the law. This campaign is a constitutional alarm bell to remind our service members of that." This is great, of course. Troops should know that they do not have to follow illegal orders from the president, especially with these strikes in the Caribbean, which is an act of war. We know that there is a high chance of many civilians being targeted within these situations. Not to mention, we are wasting so much money in this situation. I mean, it is day 6, and we are still chasing a damn oil tanker, guys. Like, what are we doing? 6 days. Give up. It's been almost a week. Why are we still chasing this oil tanker? There is no reason. This war has not been approved by Congress. It is very much so an illegal war, and it needs to be shut down. We are killing innocent people in the Caribbean. Sure, maybe some of them are drug dealers. Sure. But if you look at the numbers, a majority of the people bringing drugs into this country are Americans, not people by boats. If we really, really cared about drugs, which we don't, this is a conflict about oil, we would be taking a look at the Americans who are actively bringing drugs across the border. With that being said, though, thank you everyone for watching today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed. It has definitely been a very interesting day in the news world, that is for sure. If you're new here, though, please consider subscribing. All the support would be greatly appreciated as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by the end of the year. We're getting close to 700. We're about halfway there. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Claim your OG ticket. One of these days we'll hit 100,000 and we'll get a play button, and that'll be super cool. So be there before then, and then you can say you're super duper cool. But with that being said, if you're on Substack, please also consider subscribing as well. It's $8 a month. This is a viewer-supported show, so all the support is truly wonderfully appreciated. With that being said, go check out the TikTok. We do streams over there. Also, other news videos, of course, all the news that we talk about in here, we talk about on TikTok as well. Go check out the Blue Sky, where I post announcements to this, announcements to streams, and, other little random things about my life and what's going on. And outside of that, thank you everyone for watching. We're flying home on the 30th. And that's all I got for today. So I will see you all tomorrow.